right, let's roll.
We don't really know where the world is gonna go, but now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep. But now everybody knows. Got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep going. What you want to be going, you will see. It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100, a quarter in it, printed out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
But now everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
Really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Good evening. Get in here. Tonight we're going to talk about something that has been kind of the topic of many of your calls, your consults recently.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, ladies. Especially with I'll call it interest rates dropping. I think it's largely due to that because people are now getting these vehicles and they're trying to understand how to use them.
Yeah, especially HELOCs. As more people get access to them, there's a lot of different types of HELOC products that are now on the market. Some of them geared towards velocity banking, and that's really good news for people who are trying to crush debt, trying to leverage their cash flow to find multiple uses of the same dollar, work smarter, not harder.
Right.
And if that's you, then you're in the right place. However, some people are making one crucial mistake that is devastating their results, and they're not sure why. So if you have been paying into your HELOC for months, maybe even years, but for some reason your balance just won't move, it's pretty frustrating, right? And the truth is, it's not because you're not trying hard enough or because you've got the wrong financial product. Like, there's a lot of these offered out there. It's just because almost everyone overlooks this one critical step in their strategy, and it's the very thing that impacts how fast your HELOC balance drops. And once you know what it is, everything changes. But here's the catch. Most people don't even realize they're missing it. And it's the same mistake that keeps all these homeowners stuck in debt for years longer than they need to be. So why is this so easy to miss? And more importantly, how can you fix it? So by the end of the stream, you'll not only know how this happens, you'll know how to fix it, but you'll know why this happens. I think that's the biggest part of this. You'll know what this key step is, and you'll be ready to start applying it and watch your HELOC balance finally start to shrink. So first, let's dive into why this common mistake happens in the first place. And let's start with, how common is this mistake?
Well, here's the thing. Especially when we're talking about a first position home equity line of credit.
Yeah.
Have we really been conditioned? Have we really been taught how to leverage and use a first position home equity line of credit? Absolutely not. Like, in most cases, we are used to banks telling us what we should or shouldn't do. And we, on a monthly basis, take care of whatever that activity we were invoiced to do. And we set it and forget it and we leave it alone. Versus, hey, here's a vehicle. Matter of fact, this is probably the largest asset you will ever have in your life.
Right.
Here's some direction and some instruction on how to leverage this vehicle so that you can help yourself, help your family, accomplish your goals. We're not educated that way. So in most cases, the biggest mistake is how to use it.
Yeah.
Like, because in your intro, you mentioned the word strategy. Well, who has educated you on what this strategy looks like and how to use this strategy? Matter of fact, when you got the product, was it given to you as a strategy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you say, like, where did you learn it from? And then who do you know that you can talk to about it? Because when you go to the bank and that you say, I want a first position HELOC, for instance, which, by the way, we talk about using first position or second position.
Right.
So a lot of people feel like, oh, I can't do it unless I have a first position. And sometimes the math doesn't math for that, right?
Amen. Especially in this, I'll call it atmosphere of interest rates. Now, they are falling today, but 6 months ago, it was not like that.
Yeah, right. And there'll be more opportunities and more competitive these products become, which is really exciting. And that's great news for anyone who is looking to leverage their equity to crush debt, build wealth, pay off their home super fast, as we did, right? We used a strategy to pay off our home in 4 years. And now we just become our own bank, which is kind of cool because a lot of people don't even know that you can do that.
Right.
The power here is understanding how the strategy works. And this is the unfortunate part. One, you learn this strategy and then you go home and you're talking to your spouse, or you're talking to your family, or you go to the bank and you're talking to your lender and you're saying, this is how I want to use it. And because they don't understand the strategy, oftentimes people end up with this kind of negative Nancy, right? This like Debbie Downer experience of people going like, why would you want to do that? So
Right.
then you start questioning the strategy and you forget the long math, right? So then you start going, well, where can I compromise? Where can I feel comfortable, more comfortable? Where can I make my uncle, my auntie, my parents, my lender, where can I make all of these people feel like they're more in agreement with what I'm doing so that I just don't get these looks and have this energy with these people that I have relationships with? So therefore, you start to create this like hybrid version of a strategy, which then we're going to see what that impact is and where the most important piece is. But this is the part that everybody who is calling in going, my HELOC isn't working. This isn't working like you said it was. They're all missing the same piece. And the reason why they're missing the same piece is what I want to first uncover, because it's so critical that we understand why they put this down in the first place, right? When they call you and they go, this isn't working, what do you find like the root reason of why they abandoned this part? Like they watched the videos, right? They saw the case studies, they understand where these components are, but why do they abandon and kind of like try to create their own and
Hybrid strategy.
yeah, like
Right.
they reorganize
Yeah.
the strategy to somehow fit what they think. What's the root there? Because it's very common to see people do this.
Well, and I still think it's rooted in conditioning, because you've got some randos on YouTube talking about all you got to do is
Yeah, like who are we? Right.
right.
Yeah.
All you got to do is take this asset that is, again, probably the largest asset you will possibly have in your life. You take this asset, and here's what you do. You take all of the income you made for this month and put it on that asset.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. This asset functions like a mortgage, right? So here's what I know. If I put extra money onto my mortgage,
It's gone.
I'll never see this again.
Yeah. Why would I do
So
that?
you're telling me that I'm supposed to take this, and again, a couple randos from YouTube.
Yeah.
You're
here we
telling
are.
me I'm supposed to take all of my income and put my income onto this thing that functions like a mortgage, and I'm not going to lose everything that I've earned for this month. Like, it's scary.
Yeah, but then you say, no, that's not how this works. Let me show you how this works. And there may be someone else who goes, but still, why would you do that?
Right.
It may not be anybody.
Right.
It may just be that little voice in your head
Right.
that says, I get that other people are getting these results, but I also want to feel comfortable in the process. It's like going on a diet and the goal is to lose weight, but you decide that, like, you know what? Just I gotta cure these cravings. And so just a couple extra snacks a day, like what's that gonna hurt? Not realizing that those snacks could have added up to being the caloric value of 2 whole meals because you just weren't paying attention, right? I think that's kind of what this is. You're almost defeating yourself by trying to be comfortable, and then you look up and you
Right.
go, gosh, I've been putting in all this effort trying to get these results. Why am I not getting the results? You can see that I've been putting in this effort for a month or 2 months. And anyway, that could just be a me thing. If you're not like that, once I started counting calories, I was like, whoa, I had no idea all these calories were just hiding in this healthy food, right? And that's essentially what we're doing. Healthy financial choices are crippling us because we don't understand the power of where those dollars could be going and the results that we could be seeing, right? Immediately from taking action in a different way. So that's what we're going to talk about. What is the mistake that people are making and what are they missing as a result? Why are they experiencing that the HELOC isn't working? And how can we fix it so that we can move forward? I mean, that's the most important part here, right?
And I hate to derail, but last week, we were in Savannah, and we step into, speaking of calories, we step into the Savannah candy shop. And, you know, my wife has been so excited about, you know, some of the habits that she's been making adjustments to so she can, you know, look better in the clothes that she's wearing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So she's been on this journey and it's working. But we walk into the Savannah candy shop.
Candy Kitchen. It's a whole experience. You can smell this place before you even walk in the door. It smells like if you could smell Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory.
That's fair.
It smelled
That's
like
fair.
you were about to be in a world of pure imagination. And you were, okay? There's like little trains running around the ceiling. It was a place where dreams are made to come true. We were there. Savannah Candy. Shout out to Savannah Candy Kitchen. What do you want to say about it?
It was just, you mentioned calories and the struggle around staying there. And I think you did an amazing job walking in and gathering samples. And, you know, you had me gather a few samples for you, and that's fine.
Samples.
But we did not go beyond that. And so I think you did a really good job of, to your point, it's hard when you're going through this journey, especially going through this journey somewhat alone, or it's an internal struggle, to have the fortitude to go, you know what, I'm not. Because I was sure we were going to come back with a bag of something.
He kept even saying, like, do you want to go back and get some of those?
Like,
do you want to?
I support
we're
both
here.
ways. Like, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, he's like, old you would have been like, yes, we are definitely getting some. I don't care. We'll just don't care. The point is that I didn't, and I didn't even have as many samples as I was.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem as though she went all in. But you did say, hey, go get a sample,
And
but don't tell them it's for me. I'm just saying.
Okay, if you guys had these, what I realized was pralines was what I really have been loving this whole time. The butter pecan ice cream, pecan pie, toffee nut, whatever. The whole thing, the whole base was a praline the whole time, and I just had one for but it wasn't just any kind. This is different, and you know, it's like I like to get all Paula Deen with the butter. That's how I was raised. So of course it was all in there. The point is that it tasted like love, and so I was like, go get another sample. Don't tell him, because he didn't want it anyway. You know what I mean? He didn't want it anyway.
It's not my thing.
But the point is that I did have to have some restraint, because what I wanted to do was fill my belly with all that love coming from that Candy Kitchen and not waste a drop.
Well, and let's bring it full circle. It's that restraint. It's having that restraint to stick with the strategy.
Yeah, right.
But you first have to understand the strategy. You have to first understand the goal. What's the goal? The goal is, hey, I am going to eat better. The goal is I'm going to get this line of credit to do what? Not just to get this line of credit.
Right.
The goal is to actually accomplish something like generate wealth, or put my family in a better position to be able to do more things. Or, you know what? I don't want to work for the rest of my life. I want to be able to retire early and fire my job. In order to do that, I need to free up enough cash flow to put it in a vehicle so that I can do those things.
Yeah.
So it's that restraint to stick with the strategy.
That's right.
And that's really what we're talking about today, is the biggest miss that I see. Because I've had, again, if I was just to count prior to when we left, if I would add those days and this weekend, I've probably had 5 different discussions around either a first or a second position HELOC and the usage of it, meaning it's not working the way my videos said it was supposed to work. And when you start peeling back the layers, it's a common theme as to why. Are you following the strategy?
Saeed says, you guys better stop. I just started a new diet. And that's the thing, I think, is when you have a diet, when you have a budget, right? These are the same types of things. It doesn't become a lifestyle until it becomes like such a habit that
Right.
you could walk into the Savannah Candy Kitchen or you wouldn't even want to, because that's just not negotiable. And I think that was the biggest lesson for me, is like having those experiences and watching how I'm responding a little differently than a lot differently, right? It's the same thing with how and why we've achieved what we have financially. It starts with those little changes, and it starts with, okay, well, I'll just have a sample instead. Nobody's going to be perfect at this.
Right.
You can't have the expectation that you're going to be perfect and not make mistakes or not slip up and have some samples. Have your husband get you a sample. I don't think that that's realistic, and we just have to give ourselves grace that we would love to do it perfect. We would love to be proud that we're doing everything perfect, but oftentimes the perfection that we're seeking, we're missing the part of the journey. And we're missing the part that says we appreciate the changes, we appreciate the growth, we appreciate the work that we're doing to change the experience that we're having as a whole. On that note, the reason why isn't just the way that I look. The reason why I have to change a lot of what I'm allowed to eat, one, was just the fact that I've had health challenges, you know, for a long time. A lot of this stuff I couldn't have for a really long time. So once I could have it, I was just like, nom, 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 give it to me. And I love food, right? So now it's less about that, and it's more about realizing what it's actually costing me. So this is kind of a good segue, I guess, because what it's actually costing people to do these financial things to make them feel comfortable in lieu of the strategy that gets the best results, what it's actually costing in the end, you don't get to see that unless you're really watching it. It's not that suddenly you can't fit into your wallet, right? It's not that you open up your bank account and you've got nothing that fits, right? It's not the same thing in terms of the mortgage, because people are so used to and they're okay with the 30-year. They've already signed up for that. They're already okay. So anything is an improvement. If you are hell-bent, though, on achieving like a 4-year mark, for instance, a 4-year payoff, if that's something that you're wanting to do. We didn't have 4 years, by the way. We didn't say we want to pay this off in 4 years. We said we are going to do the strategy, which meant we were putting all of our cash flow, and whatever that was is what it was. We could improve it to make it more, but the idea was just a total versus a specific number or timeline. We knew that the more we could increase our cash flow, the better results we could have.
Right.
But the commitment that we had was that all of the cash flow that we had would be applied here. So that's part of the strategy. It's the commitment. It's the idea that this is worth it. The idea that the lifestyle, the habits that we're forming, and where we're going, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. I don't think we need to
belabor.
Yeah. I think we can go ahead and jump into it. But if you have any questions on, if you have a HELOC, and this is something that you are, or you're about to get a HELOC, and you're wanting to
thinking about getting a HELOC, and we're going to start having some HELOC experts, some people who are offering HELOCs specifically for the use of velocity banking. We're gonna have them soon on our channel, and you'll be able to ask them questions about it as well. But we can share with you our journey, what we've seen, and where we have been able to help people achieve the same thing we have. So we've been able to duplicate our results multiple times over, but there are some people who struggle and they're not getting the same results, and there is a reason why. That's the good news. The good news is it works if you use it, but you got to know what you're doing and be committed to the process. So, ready? Let's do it.
All right, let's jump in. Here we go. All right.
Let's see here. All sounding good?
Yeah, and we got to love this whole Bobby Brown headset. I wish I had the sound. Yeah, yep, you got it. My prerogative. Let's do it.
All right.
We're here for it.
So again, this is a conversation I've been having a lot over the last few days, and it's related to, hey, I've got this HELOC, I've got this debt tool, but it doesn't seem to be working the way you said. And I'll give you the answer to the test now. The first question that comes out of my mouth is, are you following the strategy? Yeah, like, awesome, you got a debt tool, but what are you doing with it? How are you using it? How are you leveraging it? And then we get into, what's the goal? Because if the goal is X, are you leveraging the vehicle so that you can accomplish the goal? Not, hey, I got the HELOC, now I've checked the box and I'm done. So this debt, just because you have a line of credit doesn't necessarily mean you've been using it correctly. You might have the right tool, but are you actually applying it correctly is the question. Because if the goal is to eliminate debt, then how you apply the debt tool that you have to eliminate that debt is very important. So what are we talking about? It's that age-old conversation around velocity banking. How are you using it? Are you using it correctly? What is it for, and how does it work? Well, let's be clear. Velocity banking is just a strategy. You can't buy velocity banking. Matter of fact, you can't buy a velocity banking, I'll call it, tool. Now, there's some marketing going out there that may market a line of credit like a velocity banking tool, but in truth, it does not exist. Why? It's just simply a strategy designed to do what? Eliminate debt. And as that debt is being eliminated, what happens is your cash flow starts to increase. So it's a strategy. It's a strategy that you have to apply. And what that ultimately means is just getting a debt tool does not solve the problem. You have to take action. And it is solely on you to take that action. And whether you're taking that action correctly or whether you're doing all of the necessary steps to be able to accomplish the goal depends on the goal. So what are the benefits of velocity banking? Well, obviously it's around debt payoff. But it's also, again, if we're comparing a line of credit like a first position home equity line of credit compared to a mortgage, well, in the midst of paying off that debt faster, what you're ultimately doing is I'll call it a cost, what is it? Cost avoidance, meaning you're paying less in interest. I wouldn't necessarily call paying less in interest a savings, but it is true. You're saving on the amount of interest that you're paying, which means you're avoiding what you could be doing if you still had that 30-year mortgage and it took you 30 years to pay it off. You're not buying the bank an additional home. And hopefully, as you reduce the amount of debt that you have, what happens to your cash flow? Well, as the debt is eliminated, my cash flow increases. Well, when my cash flow increases, what are those other boxes that end up getting checked? One of the many boxes that end up getting checked is the secondary impact around your credit, around your credit worthiness, around whether or not a bank will or won't offer you a product. Now, let's be clear. If we're talking about a first position home equity line of credit, the minute you get that first position home equity line of credit, because in most cases, a first position home equity line of credit is fairly large. The minute you get a large credit card, what does that do to your credit profile? Well, when the bank sees that large, I'll call it that large credit card on your credit profile, it negatively impacts your credit profile. Your credit score, in most cases, will fall. But that's okay. Because that goes back to what's the goal. If the goal is to be able to eliminate debt, this is the vehicle that I'm going to do it. So I know that, hey, there may be some actions that I need to take to be able to improve those things. And then ultimately, one of my favorite is getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. Meaning, because you have an open-ended product, unlike a mortgage, when I put income into that open-ended product, the balance on that open-ended product drops. So the income that I put in has addressed that piece. But then as I pay bills from it, I'm getting multiple uses out of that same dollar without even knowing it. And how do you accomplish these things? What do you need to be able to effectively do velocity banking? Well, you got to know your numbers. And sweetheart, if you don't mind, you can throw up the link to our workbook that we offer. You have to understand your numbers, understand what's coming in, what's going out, what are the minimums or the amounts that you're paying on the expenses that you have, and ultimately driving that vehicle through a debt tool and being conscious of what your cash flow is. We offer a workbook out there on our site that allows you to be able to identify what that looks like over time for you. And so, as I mentioned, in most cases, it's about a couple of tools. But if you have the right tool, but you're not applying it correctly, meaning, hey, I've got this first position home equity line of credit, and the reason I got this first position home equity line of credit was to address this debt. But I'm only making the minimum payment on this first position home equity line of credit. Is that the strategy? Is there a video that you can point to where I said, hey, once you get this line of credit, once you get this debt tool, make sure you're only making the minimum payment because that's how you're going to eliminate the debt? No. What happens is if you apply your income, if you follow the velocity banking strategy to that debt tool, what ends up happening is you're able to crush that debt. And as you crush that debt, what happens with that cash flow is it actually allows you to be able to, again, create more cash flow, crush more debt. And in truth, it shouldn't really look like this. In truth, it should actually look more like, if I can make it bigger, should actually look more like this, meaning the more you use this tool, the larger the tool becomes. And as that tool becomes bigger, it allows you to be able to crush more debt over time. So my point is, as this happens, didn't mean to do that. As this happens, it puts you in a position to be able to invest in what you want and use it however you would like based off the size of the tool. And therefore, when we talk about what type of debt tool you should get or what type of debt tool you should use, there are many. There are many different types. And I leave these blank intentionally because there may be debt tools that I'm not even aware of. For instance, I think I was on a call and a gentleman mentioned that he leverages his stock portfolio. And I'll give you an example because I've done this before. I've done this in the past as well, but it didn't even dawn on me that I could leverage this and use this as a debt tool. And what I mean is I had, I'll get a quick example. I've got a fair amount of Amazon stock. And because I have a fair amount of Amazon stock with Morgan Stanley, they allow me to take out lines of credit against my against my stock. So my stock never moves. My stock never, I'll call it, converts over to dollars. I am simply getting a loan, a line of credit from from Morgan Stanley, and I'm able to use that for whatever I want. Is it open-ended? Not necessarily, but when I get that line of credit, and if I was to transfer it into my checking account, I can use it as a debt tool as it relates to velocity banking. So my point is, there are many different types. Today, we are talking about a home equity line of credit, but there are many different types, and there may even be some that I haven't even identified. So my point is, it is up to your imagination as to what you want to use to be able to address this debt. But what do I mean as it relates to velocity banking? Just to restate or reiterate what that looks like, as income comes in, it traditionally goes into your checking account. So it will continue to do that. But the thought process is as your income comes into your checking account, you immediately put it on some type of debt tool. And from that debt tool, you're going to pay bills. But what ends up happening is the cash flow left over, instead of it normally sitting in your checking account, maybe going to savings, that cash flow ends up living on that line of credit. And what ends up happening is it drops that balance down to the lowest point. Today's example is a lady by the name of Jackie. And Jackie had reached out to me. She's 42 years old, if I'm not mistaken, 42 years old, and she had just gotten her first position home equity line of credit. She owns a home that is worth, I believe it was $320K. So she has a home that is worth $320,000, and she has a mortgage with a balance on it of $130,000. Well, when she went to go get her first position home equity line of credit, and some of you who have one or in the process of getting one, sometimes the bank says, hey, you can have a line of credit, but we need to throw in more debt. And so what they forced her to do was add $50,000 of, and it ended up being a combination of different credit cards. They said, hey, if you throw in, because I think that impacts her DTI, if you throw in this $50,000 in credit card debt, we can give you a first position home equity line of credit for $180,000. And that's what she did. So she's in the process of leveraging, using that $180,000 first position home equity line of credit. Well, in the midst of paying off the mortgage and in the midst of paying off this $50,000 of debt, her cash flow increased. Her cash flow increased to approximately, I want to say it's about $2,700 a month, which is pretty significant. And so this is her current profile. I've got $180,000 first position home equity line of credit. I have cash flow of about $2,700, and now I'm ready to go. In my mind, I see no problems here, but I got a call. And what I realized was, as it relates to, as it relates to how most people do velocity banking, again, they think that, hey, when my income comes in and it goes onto this debt tool, all I have to do is pay my bills. And because my cash flow is still sitting in my checking account, I must be doing velocity banking. And that is not true. So in Jackie's case, she really thought she was following the process. She was pretty confident that what she was doing was right, meaning she felt as though she was following this trend. And it is, income goes into my checking account, goes on to my first position home equity line of credit, I pay bills, and that cash flow ends up living on the debt tool. But what she was actually doing was simply debt consolidation. Her income comes into her checking account as normal, and her income comes into her checking account as normal, but then what ends up happening is she paid off a few debts. She paid off the credit card debt, and she added that credit card debt to the home equity line of credit. But what's happening from her checking account? She's just simply paying the minimum payments on the remainder of her debts. So what happens is her cash flow is just sitting in her checking account. So in essence, she has done nothing different. Well, I take that back. She has done something different. And that was she consolidated her debt. She had consolidated her mortgage. She consolidated those credit cards into this line of credit. But now the balance on this line of credit needs to be addressed. So if you're truly doing velocity banking, how do you address the debt on the line of credit? What are the steps that you take? And so how does velocity banking traditionally work? And again, this is one of those visuals where I think this says it really, really well. And that is, as you start to eliminate debt using your debt tool, your cash flow starts to increase. And as your cash flow increases, you become almost, I'll call it impervious or resistant to whatever interest might look like. So it really almost doesn't matter what the interest rate is as you are eliminating the debt and as the cash flow continues to get larger. You end up becoming quite powerful in being able to eliminate debt over time. So therefore, whether the interest rate is 5%, 6%, 10%, 12%, as it grows and becomes variable, because the debt is being eliminated so quickly, it almost doesn't matter. And what we cannot forget about is the other incidentals. Meaning, because you're using a first position home equity line of credit to eliminate debt, and you're probably using a credit card to pay all of your debt, don't forget about the cash back and the rewards that you also receive in this process. So I think this is a pretty good representation of what velocity banking is supposed to be. And so what that ultimately means is you have to identify where is your leverage located. Do you have a previous employer retirement account that you can leverage and use? Do you have a credit profile that will put you in a position to where you can have some type of line of credit? And how are you leveraging or using that debt tool? Are you able to get multiple uses out of the same dollar? And last but not least, as you start to pay off that debt and that cash flow increases, then what? What are you doing with it? What's the goal? What is the point? What is the purpose? And so with Jackie, it pretty much looked like this. And again, she has great income. She's got about $7,000 of income coming in, and that income goes straight into her checking account, and she's paying expenses. She got this first position home equity line of credit, and I think it's a principal. The principal and interest payment on that line of credit is about $993, $993 a month. So as her income comes in, she's paying her regular expenses. She's already paid off the mortgage, already paid off the credit card. Now the objective is just simply to pay off the line of credit, and she's paying just the payment that is due and is wondering, why is my HELOC not going down? Why is it not moving? Well, it's right here. She's got about $4,300 in debt that she's paying, and she's got cash flow of about $7,000, but where is this $2,700 going? This $2,700 at this moment is going right back into her checking account. And so what I wanted to show is, sweetheart, I want you to jump over to the other side of the board, because what I want to show you is I want to show you how her HELOC is performing based off this strategy. Meaning, if currently she's putting the, let's see how I want to do this. I'll make it bigger. No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
No.
Okay. No, you stay here. Okay.
Okay.
So what she's currently doing is she's taking this $993 a month. I'm going to call it roughly $1,000, and she's putting it towards the line of credit. And she's expecting to see movement on that line of credit based off that $1,000 a month. So what I want to show you is how's that actually performing inside of our HELOC? What is happening mathematically inside the HELOC that either is or isn't helping the story? And so now, yep, you can switch over to the HELOC, and this is just a simple HELOC calculator. This is not anything special. And what's happening is, again, she has a $180,000 balance on her line of credit. The interest rate on that line of credit is 8.67%. And what I'm showing here is the current cash flow as the HELOC is experiencing it. Meaning, yeah, she brings home $7,000. But right now, she is only paying the $993 a month into the HELOC. So from the HELOC's perspective, the expenses might as well be all the way up to that $993 because what's being experienced inside the HELOC is only $1,000 difference. Okay, $993, I'm rounding up, so it's only $1,000 difference. So if I'm only putting, if I have a $180,000 HELOC and I've got only $1,000 going into that line of credit, what does this performance look like over time? So let's calculate it. Well, what the data says is it's going to take well over 360 months to pay off this line of credit. But let's look at the detail. Let's view the report. So if I was to view the report, and I'll zoom in on some of this stuff, but the piece I want to connect you to is this. Notice, make it bigger, bring it over. Make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay. What I want you to notice is, again, the balance is $180,000. And I know the pen is kind of in the way, but the balance is $180,000. She's got a $7,000 payment and $6,000 in expenses. Her interest is not just $993. It's a compounding issue, meaning in month one, it's $993. But if she pays $993, what's happening is there's a compounding effect that is causing the interest to steadily increase. So if you notice, the balance on this line of credit is not getting smaller. It's continuing to get larger, which means she no longer has a line of credit. Let's say, I don't know what month this is. Let's call it month 20. So at month, let's go month 24, 2 years. So at month 24, she no longer has, didn't want to do that. She no longer has a HELOC that was worth $180,000. She now has a HELOC that's sitting somewhere around $190,000 because she's only been making the minimum payments. So if she continues down this path, she's in trouble. So what should she do? Sweetheart, if you jump over to the other side. So what should she do in this case? Well, in this case, she should be simply following the strategy, the velocity banking strategy. And I know it seems difficult. I know it seems like it's almost an unrealistic expectation that, you know what, just because I make $7,000 a month, you're telling me all $7,000 is supposed to go on to this line of credit? And that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying as your income goes in, it goes on to this line of credit that is open-ended. And what ends up happening is you no longer have a home equity line of credit payment that you have to make. So you only have to focus on the additional expenses. And in her case, the additional expense is about $4,300. So, okay, I put all of my income, all $7,000. When I put $7,000 onto a home equity line of credit that has a balance of $180, what does that do? It drops the balance down to what, $193? And so when I pay the $4,300 in expenses out of that line of credit, the balance creeps back up. And I get it. We don't all make payments. We don't all pay our bills one time a month. So throughout the month, that balance is just creeping up. But when she originally puts her income onto this line of credit, it's now sitting at the absolute lowest point of the period, of the month. And how is interest accrued on a line of credit? In most cases, the interest is accrued on a daily basis. So if I put all of my income on day one of the month, that means that on month one, I'm at that $193,000, which is at the lowest point on that HELOC that I could hope for. But on the 10th, I pay my cable bill. On the 11th, I pay my mortgage, or I pay my electric bill. As I continue to pay bills, the balance starts to creep up. But I am still accruing the least amount of interest possible at that point. And so what ends up happening is this $2,700 in cash flow ends up sitting on this line of credit. So at the end of the month, I don't have a balance of $180,000. I have $2,700 less on that line of credit, which means I'm creating room, which means I'm accruing less interest, which means my line of credit isn't continuing to get bigger. Why? Because I'm following the strategy. So, sweetheart, if you jump over to the HELOC calculator again. So if, hide the report, if she was actually following the strategy, what would this look like? Well, it wouldn't be just $7,000 going in, because that's correct. The monthly expenses are $4,300. So if the monthly expenses are $4,300 and we calculate the line of credit, what ends up happening is now, if you can see by this visual here, it takes approximately it's in the way. There we go. It takes approximately 93 months to pay off this line of credit. And if we look at the view the report, the detail, you will then see that as the cash flow sits on this line of credit, notice how the line of credit continues to drop. Notice how it starts at $180,000, but as that cash flow between the interest and the charges being made, that cash flow starts to drop that line of credit like a rock. And so what ends up happening is it takes ultimately, just scrolling all the way down here to the bottom, 93 months to pay off this line of credit. Why? Because we're following the strategy. Now, here's the piece. But what if an emergency happens? What if a hurricane comes through and we need to all of a sudden, State Farm ends up kicking us off of our insurance and we end up having to replace our roof on our own? Well, hopefully you would have built enough room inside this line of credit that you can do that. How does that impact a vehicle like this? Well, ultimately what that means is it doesn't mean I have lost the line of credit. It means that maybe now my balance has changed. And now instead of it taking 93 months to pay off this line of credit, it might be 120 months. But that's way better than 360. This now becomes a vehicle that I can leverage and use. And sweetheart, if you slide back over to the other side. And the piece that I want to make sure we also talk through is, what about savings though? Because as I mentioned, when this income comes in, and all of that income goes on to the line of credit and we pay bills from that line of credit, one thing that we rarely talk about on this live is the existing savings. And let's step back a little bit. When she started this process, she had cash flow of about $2,700. And so she had been doing velocity banking for a while. Well, if that $2,700 in cash flow wasn't going on to the line of credit, she was only paying the minimum, and the balance on the minimum was causing the line of credit to continue to increase. Where was that $2,700 going? She was putting it in savings. She was putting it in savings and preparing herself to be able to chunk away at a debt. So it was sitting here ready to be used. Well, the truth about velocity banking is if you're going to truly do the strategy, you should be using you should be allowing the savings to actually sit on the line of credit. What happens if you do that? If you allow your savings to sit on this line of credit, the simple answer is it reduces the amount of credit that you're accruing over time. So, sweetheart, if you slide back over to the HELOC calculator. So what would this look like if she was to apply that $25,000 here? Well, if she started out with a balance of $180,000, she had $25,000 sitting in savings. And again, I'm not putting the $25,000 onto the line of credit to use it. That's not the point. The point is I'm just parking it there. I'm sitting it there. Well, if I put $25,000 onto this line of credit, 180 minus 25 is 155,000. That means the new balance is 125,000. So what does that look like in this strategy? How long would it take to be able to pay off this line of credit if I was to do that? Let's see here. Do I got everything right? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot a zero. Make that 155. 3 zeros. There we go. So what does that look like if we were to do that? So it turned that 93 months into 76 months. All it does is it allows you or places you in a position to where you are now accruing less interest. You're paying less interest to the bank, which also means that 8.67% interest rate, which seems impactful, becomes less impactful. So it's not as big of a problem because you're doing what? Following the strategy. And so if you slide back over to the other side, sweetheart. So my point is, we can get into these situations where, you know what, I want this line of credit. I've got this line of credit. I've been watching Angelique and Donnell, and it looks like they've been taking action with their line of credit to accomplish some things. But a lot of times I run into people who aren't really clear as to what the goal was. I got it. Now I'm unclear as to how to use it. So the best thing you can do is get on my calendar and let's talk about it. Because while I don't offer home equity lines of credit, what I can help you understand is provide you with some clarity around how to use that line of credit, because they're not all the same. So if this is you, or if you feel like this in any way, meaning, hey, I got this line of credit for what? Because I want to focus on financial freedom, but I'm struggling with, what are the actions that I should take? Or I walk into a bank and I think I want to find first position home equity line of credit, but this bank is using their subject matter expert position to tell me that I'm wrong, to tell me that I don't really know what I'm talking. What I really want to do is refinance my mortgage, because then I can do a cash out refi and I can have more money in hand. When in truth, the banks don't have a clue as to what it is you're truly trying to do. They have, matter of fact, and they're also not tied to your goal. Their job is to provide you with the product. And so what a line of credit also offers is simplification, the ability to be able to access your funds, to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do them. And maybe what is necessary or needed is some of that consistent and predictable ability to pay off debt over time. This is that, my goal is to address my health and my weight. That means that I can't splurge and make the mistake of walking into the Savannah Candy Kitchen and doing something incorrect, right?
That's right.
So you have to stay committed. You have to stay committed to what is the goal? Is it financial freedom or not?
Right.
Right? So ultimately, it all boils down to, and in Jackie's specific situation, it boils down to the goal. This was her goal. So that cash flow that was sitting there in savings waiting to go to work, how was that helping her hit this goal? She got the line of credit, awesome. But if you're only going to pay the minimum on that line of credit and interest continues to increase, how does that help you accomplish the goal? Here's the cool part. When she dumped her savings onto the line of credit, it immediately made room of about $25,000. And then as she kind of starts to contribute to the line of credit month after month, that room just steadily increases, which means it gives her space to do what? Get multiple uses out of the same dollar. And so what does that look like? Well, her goal was to be able to produce $75,000 a year in supplemental income by the time she retired. So I asked, okay, name the vehicle that you're wanting to put some cash flow in to be able to do so. And as we had gone down the list, she also wanted the ability to be able to leverage the vehicle as she has it, as she's using it. Well, you guys know what that looks like. There's only one vehicle that I know of that will allow you to do that, and that's a properly structured cash value life insurance product. And so the path we ended up moving down was, well, let's take a look at a leveraged IUL. Okay, I've got this, and what is that dollar amount you're wanting to contribute? Well, if I've got $2,700 in cash flow, she felt comfortable being able to put away $1,000 a month. And again, give us some background on her. She's 42, and her objective is to put away $1,000 a month into a secure compound interest account, into a leveraged IUL, and allow that thing to compound till age 65. So the question is, what happens at age 65 in a process like this? And there's two ways of looking at it. There's a normal IUL, and then there's a leveraged IUL. What's the difference? Like, why is one better than the other? Well, it's all about leverage. Because if you just follow the process in looking at the first 10 years of an index universal life insurance policy properly structured versus an index universal life insurance policy with leverage, at year 3, something special happens. Everything from year 1 gets added to year 3. You do that for year 3 and year 4, and then at year 5, something special happens. Everything from year 1 and year 2, which is $24,000, gets added to year 5 and 6. And as you continue to move down this path, it's a simple mathematical equation. You've put in $120,000 inside of an IUL. And if it's properly structured, whether capped or uncapped, it's doing pretty well for you. But what if you had your same 120,000 plus 240,000 of leverage dollars working for you as well? If you've got more money working for you, what's the likelihood of you building more cash value, which puts you in a position to do what? Have more wealth. But let's actually talk about the actual math of this process, though. You got something to say, sweetheart?
It's oh.
Hi.
That wasn't what I meant to do. All right. Well, anywho, it's really about why people can see stuff like this and still not move forward.
Right.
So I'll chime in after you're done here.
Okay, no problem. So what I wanted to just, and I'm kind of jumping to the end. If we've got a leveraged IUL and we're putting in $1,000 a month, and we allow that $1,000 a month to compound over time, you would have contributed about $276,000. You would have leveraged from the life insurance company, again, starting in year 3, continuing to compound of somewhere around 1.7 million. Well, the growth between these two numbers would give you cash value of around $750,000. What is the income that you would ultimately be able to take if you've got cash value around this dollar amount? Well, somewhere around maybe $75K per year. Well, what I want to do is, this is if you're using an IUL with leverage. I've gotten several calls this week around, Donnell, where'd that MPI calculator go? Like, I used to be able to put my numbers in and better understand what this would look like, knowing that the numbers that I put in this calculator doesn't necessarily mean those are the factual dollar amounts that I'm going to receive when I start taking a distribution. It was just a pretty good tool to give me an idea as to what that math looks like. So here's what I want to do. This is $1,000 till age 65, starting at age, 42, I think? At age 42. What I want to do is pull up the old calculator, which is actually the new calculator, and let's talk about what that would look like. Because the calculator has changed, but it still will accomplish the goal. So notice here, this $1,000 a month is producing somewhere around $75,000 a year. Well, I want to grab the old, which is now the new calculator, and I want to compare it to an IUL with no leverage, and I want to compare it to a traditional retirement account. We're going to fill in the rest of these 3 boxes with a few numbers. So if you don't mind, sweetheart, would you jump over to the calculator? And so I mentioned this last week. I'm at compoundinterest.com. The calculator is still there. It's just that the calculator has changed. So let me dig into some of the why of, and I'm not going to go through this at all, but the bottom line is the reason for it changing is right here. There were some changes made to the AG 49, and so to become AG 49 compliant, there were some adjustments made to this calculator so that you can still use it. And some people are going, but wait a minute, it doesn't give all of the numbers and the detail that it used to. You're right, but the detail is still there, and I'm going to show you. So in this case, Jackie's 42. So if I put in current age, I don't have a 42 number to be able to put in. But what is she closest to? She closest to 40 or is she closer to 50? Well, in this case, she's closer to 40. So if I put in age 40, and she's not doing a lump sum, so that's okay. So we're going to do 0. The monthly premium that she do, in this case, she's doing $1,000 a month. That one happens to be there. And how long are we going to allow this to compound? Well, she said till age 65. Well, if you use 40 and go to age 65, 40 to 65 is 25 years. So what does that look like? And when we run this, notice you get 2 dollar amounts here. Let me make this a little bit bigger, and I'm going to highlight them. You get a 5529 number, and you get a 4046 number. So this 5529, this is the monthly amount that you would be able to leverage inside of a vehicle if you were to do this strategy. Well, her goal is 75,000. And again, this is just meant to be a roundabout. This is not fact. This is, hey, if the market performs like it's performed over the last 25 years, this is around about what you can expect. And in addition, because of AG 49, if we're going to illustrate what this performance looked like, there's a certain range that we have to stay within. So to remain compliant, this is giving you an idea as to what this looks like. Now, let me show you something. That 5529 does equate to a monthly amount. I'm sorry, it does equate to an annual amount. And now I'm going to show you what that looks like. See if I can do this real quick. Yep, there we go. Hopefully it pops up. We'll see what happens. So if you slide over to the other side, sweetheart. So just want to do that. Just wanted to put these dollar amounts in this calculator. So it was 5529 times 12. So if the goal was 75,000, oh, that got to make it smaller? Or you got it?
I got it.
Okay. So if the goal was $75,000 a year, simple math, 5529 times 12 says this would produce somewhere around 66,000. So I get it. It's not 75,000. But can we agree it's close? Okay. But what if it was just a regular IUL? And I won't have you go back to the other vibe board. I'll just do it from here. The IUL without the leverage said it would produce 4,046. So 4,046. Oh, what happened here? Am I froze? Oh, that's why I did it to myself. So 4,046 is the amount that the IUL would grow if there's no leverage. Again, so if you had an IUL with no leverage that you were contributing to over time, what does that dollar amount look like you would achieve by the age of 65? So using the same vehicle, it would be about $4,046. Multiply that by 12. What do you come up with? Somewhere around $48,552. So 48,000 or 48.5 versus 66K, which is better? I think it's pretty obvious. Regardless of which one you use, those are some pretty decent dollar amounts, but it's clear. Whether you use the AG49 approved calculator or you do the math like we've done it in the past, 75,000 versus 66,000 versus 48,000, which is better? Last thing I want to do here is, and sweetheart, if you don't mind jumping back over to the other board, but what would happen if we simply had a properly designed traditional retirement account? What if we follow this exact same structure with a traditional retirement account? Okay. So again, 40 years of age. I already filled all this in. I think I'm going to go ahead and just so it updates because I don't know that it will. 40 years of age and till age 65 and putting in $12,000 a year. And notice 10%, but I'm going to change this number. I know 10% is I'll call it the elusive amount that financial advisors say you're going to achieve. I'm going to do something a little bit greater. Instead of 10%, what if it's 13? And why am I using 13? I'm using 13 because I know this is inflation adjusted. So I'm going my point in doing this is the best case scenario if she was to take her cash flow and apply it to a traditional retirement account. So again, whether we're talking a properly structured cash value life insurance product or a traditional retirement account, if this is the best case scenario based off, not me, based off Vanguard, what does this look like? Well, let's calculate it real quick. What does that math look like inside of this vehicle? Well, we're talking $41.31 a month. And remember, that's $41.31 taxable. So, sweetheart, if you slide over to the calculator, what is $41.31?
You mean, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know. What calculator am I referencing?
Yeah.
The manual calculator that I've been using. Yep. So what is 41.31 times 12? So again, so we're all looking at this from an apples to apples perspective. It's 49K. So 49.5 versus, hold on, let me get back to it. 49.5 versus 4046. 49.5 versus 48.5 if we were looking at an IUL without leverage compared to a traditional retirement account. Notice the dollar amounts are similar. So we can go back to the vibe board now. Let me slide back over to that. Okay. I know I had to bring it up though.
We have been there. We're at the whiteboard.
What I was ultimately saying is, inside of an IUL with leverage based off the calculator that we now see on the compound interest side, we're talking about 66K. An IUL with no leverage, what was it? 44K, if I'm not mistaken, 44.5 or something like that. And a traditional retirement account is, what was it, 46K? The moral of the story is none of these are factual. All of these are simply a guesstimation of what this would look like if you allow your money to compound over time. But what's the difference between all of these vehicles? Again, we're talking about an IUL compared to traditional retirement account. If the goal is to be able to produce supplemental income by the age of 65, I think the answer is clear as to which, this is a 0.5. That's a K. I think the answer is it's quite clear which one would offer you a better opportunity to be able to produce the goal. The goal was $75,000 a year in supplemental income in addition to what she's currently doing. So let's kind of sum all of this up because it started with, I've got my first position home equity line of credit. But what's the goal of having that first position home equity line of credit? It's not to pay off the home. It's not to get the dollar amount in the line of credit down to zero. That was never the goal. The goal was I want to put myself in a position where I've got another vehicle working for me along with my traditional retirement account. So it's not that I don't want an IRA. It's not that I don't want a 401k. It's not that I'm going to stop contributing to my company's pension. No. It's in addition to what I'm doing inside of a traditional retirement account, I want another vehicle that I can leverage and use over time. And this is it. It gives me cash value to, again, if I have some type of natural disaster that I need to a line of credit to be able to bounce back from, I have that line of credit to be able to do so along with my home equity line of credit. But this all starts with focusing on, yep, that's the last slide. And it all starts with focusing on what the true goal is and making sure we are applying that goal to be able to accomplish it.
All right, now let's talk about it. We've got some great comments, and I want to go over them.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You gonna still be Bobby Brown for a minute?
I can.
Okay.
Every little step
How does this sound though? Better than what? Better than the last stream we had like that echo going on. Did this fix the problem? Because we can't hear everything you guys hear, but we tried to troubleshoot to fix that problem because we care about your experience in that. You guys aren't listening or seeing annoying things. I was trying to fix some other stuff, broke it. Here we are. Let's get into the Q&A. First, though, I want to bring up this comment because what you're picking up, what you're putting down, people are picking up. Gabo sure gets it. He says, want leverage? Send HELOC money to fund your policy, then send funds back to the HELOC account, rinse and repeat every year, and use the loan from either the IUL or HELOC base on which has a better interest. That's it.
That's literally what we do.
That's what we do.
And to carry this a little bit further, I just got approved for my jump. Those of you who don't have an IUL with leverage may not know what that means. But what that means is that leverage that I reference happening at years 3, 4, 5, and so on. I think it was Friday, I got approved for my jump, which means I will now be adding leverage into my policy along with my annual premium. But where does that annual premium come from? That annual premium comes right out of the home equity line of credit. We dump our income into our home equity line of credit, pay the balance down. As the balance starts to drop, we're paying the least amount of interest. But we talk often about getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. So as that room starts to be created on that line of credit, I take a lump sum out, dump it into our secure compound interest account, our IUL with leverage, to do what? To build more cash value.
Right.
To do what though? To give us leverage to be able to go do other things like non-traditional investments. The reason we were in Savannah was because we were at a self-storage convention. It was a mastermind.
Money. Yeah.
Where it was a room full of very intelligent people talking about how to create and generate mailbox money in the form of or through the usage of self-storage facilities.
Yeah, well, who are currently,
right.
Most of them have multiple facilities.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when someone like me walks into a room, what am I looking for? What are we looking for? We're looking for areas of opportunity to put our money to work. Again, money becomes an employee. Our job is to put those employees to work so that they can do what? Go recruit more employees.
Yeah.
The money that we make makes more money so that that money can go out and make more money. So it's looking for, and all we have are, these vehicles have afforded us an opportunity to identify where our leverage is located and go put that to work.
And then the other part is the impact that it has on your credit, right? So doing exactly what Gabo is suggesting here, which is what we do, impacts your credit in a way that it gives you more leverage, the opportunity, access to more leverage. So for instance, Best Buy, here's an example, any credit card, right? Those offer 0% for 18 months. Anything that we would have, even in the studio, right? Anything that we wanted to do for business purposes, for our live stream, to create this studio, it could have come out of our machine. It could have come out of the HELOC. It could have come out of anywhere where a cash flow is
Leverage.
currently working to reduce the balance, right? But the truth is, for 18 months, none of this stuff is creating a balance. So why would we let it sit and take away from the impact that each one of those dollars is having where in the machine, in the gear inside of the machine that it's currently working? Why would we do that when in 18 months we can just pay it off? But for right now, we're able to leverage, right? Get started with our new studio and with all of this stuff. And we can let it sit there while those dollars go and do a more important job. And then in 18 months, we could just pay it off. That's not the big deal. If we were to have put all of that into the same machine, we could have, but those dollars would have been fighting that plus this. They're not right now, so they're more impactful because there's more cash flow being applied to that problem. It's the long math. Doing the long math is really where this comes down to. And when you see it, you don't unsee it. And I'm so grateful to see comments like this because it means you get it. You're seeing it, which is a good indication for us that we are educating or sharing our perspective and that it's hitting with some people, but we want it to hit with everybody. So if you're picking up what we're putting down, if you're getting it, if you're understanding it, we would love to know. If you're not, though, it's even more important because it helps us learn different ways and different delivery styles to make sure that you get it. The most important thing is that you get it. It's each one teach one. You get it. You're going to go out there and share it with somebody else, and then somebody else is able to level up and do the same thing. Mind you, nowhere in here did we say eat beans and rice, right? Nowhere in here did we say you have to get a second job. Nowhere in here did we say that we did any of those things either in the results that we've achieved. We simply worked smarter, not harder. That's it. We just repositioned. We rearranged the furniture financially, essentially, right? And we got more space out of the same place. That's really what we did. We were just more efficient with where things that we currently had were going. And that's why we were able to achieve what we had in so long. But you first have to know that it exists and you have to understand the strategy. We fought all the time in the beginning when you were like, this is what we need to do. And I'm like, how does that make sense? I just felt like if you don't have cash for something, one, you don't pay for it. Why would you want to qualify for more debt? That's not a good thing. I was so heavily programmed into that I just did not feel safe. And that's where I want to go to next. That's where I wanted to chime in was on that note. It was Roger was in here talking with him, and he had some comments and some questions earlier, but this is really what it comes to. He's like, I can't get my mind off the downside if the journey goes south.
Let's talk through it. And again, this is where the strategy matters, because I'm not in here celebrating, at least I don't feel like I'm celebrating lines of credit. I'm celebrating the strategy.
The leverage. And the leverage. Lines of credit is really just the leverage.
The line of credit is the tool, right?
Yeah.
It's the wrench.
Wrench it off.
Right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. I'm more concerned about the vehicle that's built based off the usage of the wrench.
Yeah.
The wrench.
I know
right?
his grandma used to say,
yeah, because now you got me thinking about it.
Now we can't
it's
stop.
in my head. But my point is, the line of credit is just a tool. it's not that powerful. So let's talk about the what was it, the downside of a line of credit. Let's talk through it. We've been talking today about a first position home equity line of credit. First position home equity line of credit. Okay, what did that home equity line of credit in first position do? It paid off the mortgage, which means you no longer have a mortgage payment.
Well, okay.
That was kind of close.
Yeah, it was.
Paid off the mortgage, you no longer have a mortgage payment. But what else did it do? Well, in this case, it paid off $50,000 of debt, which means you no longer have that debt. So there was a significant cash flow increase. The question is, did the cash flow increase, was it greater than the cost of the line of credit? Yes or no? And before you got the line of credit, you should already know that answer. You should already know what the impact is going to be for paying off this mortgage and paying off this debt. And in Jackie's case, the answer is yes. So we've got the line of credit, we paid off the debt, we paid off the mortgage, our cash flow increases. The downside would be somehow the bank decides to convert that line of credit to a mortgage.
Yeah, and I also
Right?
want to know, like, what are the things that people are afraid of? What are those things that you're hearing out there? You hear some of those things on the calls,
Yeah,
but
number one
sometimes
is-
people don't want to share. Like, my brother or my sister or my coworker said this. They don't want to say, this is what I'm actually now calculating as part of the equation is this risk that was presented by this person I spoke to, right? You're looking for that to be confirmed or squashed through the information out here in YouTube, articles, wherever it is, right? But specifically, and I think it holds more weight when you talk to your lender, when you talk to your bank about these things. But what most people don't realize is the people who work for these banks, a lot of them have been in many other industries, right? Not a lot of them are utilizing strategies like this. They don't, because they belong to this religion that are the products that their bank sells, how those products are used. They're not doing this. They're not doing this. So they can't weigh in on something like this.
Right.
You're not going to walk into a bank and ask them, how can I pay off my home in 4 years? And they're going to be like, we got you. Why would they do that? They don't make money. Now, could you walk into a bank and ask any of those employees, has anybody here paid off their home in 4 years? Maybe that's possible. I can't say that it wouldn't be. That would be ridiculous, right? I'm sure somebody has figured it out and been smart and done this. But the likelihood, it's not. Where would they be putting their money? Where would they be saying for you to put your money? In the products that they get paid to sell,
Right.
those stocks. Why would you put extra money to pay off your mortgage? That doesn't even make sense. Put it in these stocks. Buy these CDs. Buy these bonds, right? This is
refinance your mortgage.
Oh, that's the worst. Refinance and start your amortization schedule all over again, making high 90% of that payment is going to just go to interest all over again. Chef's kiss for them, right? This is different, and this is advocating for yourself. And this is why it cannot depend on the opinions of others who are not familiar with these strategies. Just because 90% of people, 98% of people have not done this and they're not engaged into these types of strategies doesn't mean that they don't work. And that's really what Roger's saying here. He's not saying that he doesn't believe that it won't work. He's not saying he needs to know the steps in order to make it work. He's saying that he has a hard time letting go of the pessimism of the focus on how it could go wrong versus how it could go right.
Right. Well, and
That part.
I'm a man of logic. Because when we talk about the downsides, what's the number one downside? The number one downside is they're going to call my line of credit due.
Yeah.
So let's because usually the reference that I get from most people is 2008. When 2008 happened, people who had lines of credit, their lines of credit were reverted back to a loan and they were out of luck. Well, when you do your research, peel back the layers on how many of those lines of credit were in first position. So again, it goes back to understanding the strategy. First position home equity line of credit means what? It's the position that the bank cares the most about. And so in most cases, if not all, I can't say 100%, but in most cases, in 2008, when banks were reverting back from the line of credit to a loan, it was because it was in second position. Why? They had to protect the first position. The first position says this is the place where the bank is going to make their money. We are in a financial crisis as it relates to mortgages. We need to protect this position. Anything outside of this position, we need to move from the balance sheet. We need to get it off this side of the balance sheet and move it over to that side of the balance sheet. We need to move it from it being what was maybe an asset over to a liability and place that monkey back on the shoulders of the person who bought it. But the item in first position, again, is the one that is protected. So when we're talking about a first position home equity line of credit, what is the likelihood of a bank calling that due? Research it. Let's look at the data, because the moral of the story is it isn't.
Well, how about this? Most of the people who are talking about that your bank is going to call your HELOC due are probably strongly considering that you are being completely irresponsible with it as well.
That's the second.
Yeah.
The second is usage, how you're using this vehicle and if you're using it irresponsibly.
Right.
And it goes back to the title of today's live, and that is the strategy. If you're applying, if you just got the first position HELOC and you're simply paying the minimum payment, as we showed in this visual, what's going to happen to that balance? It's going to continue to increase. The bank is looking at that because they're wondering, how are you going to pay this back? But if you're following the strategy and you're allowing this vehicle to allow your savings to be able to sit on it or whatever the case may be, that balance is dropping. As a matter of fact, you start getting letters in the mail going, don't you want more credit?
Don't you want more?
Like the way that you're using this thing is really kind of out of hand. Your credit score taking a dip, but now it's almost back where it was. And hey, don't you want to increase the limit on some credit cards?
Don't you? And so you do. You do as a part of a strategy, not just because you can, but because of a strategy. And we should do a stream on where Old Navy gave him $10,000 one day when we went in there to buy like a couple of things. They're like, oh, okay, well, here's $10,000.
Back that up though.
And then he moved it. No, this is.
Hold on.
We're just going to talk about the important part.
No, but hold on, because I think you need to give the full context. We went in there to buy a couple shirts and a pair of pants.
Yeah,
like
couple things.
not much.
Yeah, right.
And you're right. Based off the credit position that we were in, they went, well, you qualify for.
Yeah, they're like, well, here's $10,000 in case you want to spend $10,000 here. We were like, we don't. But he said $10,000. And the only reason why we even did the thing was because it was the same lender bank that we already had.
And that's the context. Yeah. It's not an Old Navy card. It's a CB&A card, just so we're clear.
And on top of that, because we went in to go get a couple of things, they were like, oh, it's all 50% off if you get on this card. And I was like, well, if it's 50% off, I'm going to go get one of these in every color, right?
Right. So
because I liked them. And so they give the thing, the point is they're like, okay, and by the way, in case you want to spend another $9,900 here with us, you can now. And we were like, okay, oh, that's weird, but okay. And then you went and transferred that to another card that wouldn't increase it by 10,000 if you would have asked them to. And they were like, how do you know how to do this? And now that card he's transferred the limit to another card, which is crazy that he could do that and he knew how to do that. I'm learning stuff all the time.
But let's go through the pieces though, because this is very important. Because you can do this. The Old Navy, what bank is backing the Old Navy card? CB&A.
Yeah.
We have other CB&A cards, an American Express Airlines card, other cards. And you're absolutely correct. We couldn't get those because I'm trying to get limits increased all the time, especially when they do soft pulls. Don't want any hard pulls on my credit. So when
and our usage was going up because we'd been flying a lot more.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so our travel usage was going up. And in the beginning, when we first got those cards, we didn't care about having some high limit.
It was just leverage.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So now they're like, okay, well, you didn't care about having a high limit. Why do you care about it now? Mm-hmm. And so that's a red flag for them when you call in and you ask sometimes, right? And because they want to be the one to decide. Like, we can drill into that later. But the point is that this is a strategy that can happen. I don't want to get off topic about
No,
HELOCs.
but what's important about this is something that everybody can do because it's CBNA holds Old Navy, CBNA holds the American Airlines card. You can move lines of credit, you can move balances or credit limits between cards, and it costs nothing to do so. And so I accepted the $10,000 card. Why? It was all about where's the leverage located. So you are absolutely able to do that, and we can do a stream around that because it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and
this is no different.
What we're not talking about though is consolidating the debt.
Right.
We're not doing a balance transfer. This is a limit transfer essentially.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
You're taking your leverage and you're combining your leverage on a card. Different. I don't think anybody's talking about this, but the point is, we would have never have gone to even because why do we want an Old Navy card? We would not want that.
Still don't.
Yeah, there's no value there for us because we don't really go there very often. It just so happened I was looking for a particular thing. We walked in there for a particular thing that they happened to have. Couldn't find anywhere else, and then we ended up, okay, well, we found a few things, so why not just do this one thing? I personally. And you know me, I'm the one who makes everything difficult around here. I was like, why would we do that? Let's just get the stuff and go. Because they want to make it take forever. And you're standing in line like, please, can we have some credit? And you could, 4 or 5 people could have gone in the time that they do this. And they're like, oh, it'll only take 30 seconds. It never does. Never does. But for the $10,000 hack that I learned, man, that 30 minutes or whatever it was well worth it. And I just didn't know. Sukia's like, oh, we are a hop and a skip from meat and jello. Watch out, folks. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it today. But I do want to talk about the fact that Roger is not alone in this comment here.
Absolutely.
It is not just people who also feel this way because, I mean, essentially that's what I'm saying. That was my security blanket. Not having debt, right? Not using credit cards. That was my security blanket saying I won't get myself in trouble if I don't use any of these things I've been programmed to believe are bad. That's my security blanket. But it's also the bank's security blanket. Think about that. They could be helping people. Student loans, Sallie Mae could be helping people get out of debt. Student loans, you shouldn't be paying for 20 years and still have the same balance or a higher balance than you had going in. That shouldn't be a thing. They could be helping people, but the need to get the freedom, here we go. The need to get the freedom side of their journey means so much more. So why are we allowing them to have the freedom? This isn't just for you, Roger. This is for everybody. Why are we allowing these banks, these lenders, these other people to leverage us in that same way and so that they can have the freedom and we are beholden to make sure that they get their security blanket and that they feel secure about the deal?
Become them.
Do we need a instant replay on that? We are more concerned about how they feel, that they feel comfortable, that we are less inclined to put ourselves in the position to where we're the bank, right?
That's it.
Because now we get to decide what we're comfortable with, right? And we get the freedom to do that. Like, it's a totally different thing. So here's what I'll say to anybody who has been thinking the same way. Like, I'm really struggling to be optimistic here. And Roger had said, like, I really appreciate your optimism, Angelique. I wasn't always. Kind of funny that you're even calling me an optimist because this is a muscle I have to build all the time. My default mode is what could go wrong? What could go wrong? I want to know all of the things that could go wrong so that I can be prepared. Because if I'm not and something goes wrong, then I'm just going to blame myself that I didn't prepare for it, right? That I didn't see it and I could have prevented or to have been prepared. What could go right? That's been my new question. Okay, what could go wrong? For my security blanket, I'll go ahead. What could go wrong? All these things. I default there already. So then I have to say, well, okay, now what could go right? And it's almost like you're hitting rewind. You're hitting rewind and you're recording over the what could go wrong. You're now training your brain. It's like a muscle. You're training your brain to do that. It's just an exercise that you can do. Once I started doing that, I instantly started to see other things and seeking what could go right. What could go right? Okay, this could go wrong, but if I pay more attention to what could go right, then I'll put more energy there. My intention will go there. We'll start to see all these things that are going right. And essentially, that proof is like the seal on that, right? So the next time you're even quicker to go, okay, well, what could go right? Because you want to see it go right. Seeing the proof of that, I think, is the hard part, because for a lot of us, we have a lot more proof of what could go wrong, right? There's a lot more proof just in what we've experienced in life in general, what we've experienced with the people around us. I mean, I think just your experience growing up, whatever you were exposed to culture-wise, the differences between you and I in where we grew up,
Right.
how we grew up, even those things, breaking down the barriers in how we approach things based off of that. There were some things where I was looking at you going, how could you not see it this way? And you too, right? But it's because I was, my perspective was so shaped by this that it was fact. And you're going, it's not a fact. And I had so much proof of it in this direction. It was really difficult for me to see it any other way. But I was only robbing myself of the opportunity for it to go right by being so committed to the idea that it would go wrong, right?
Right. And I think it's rooted in who has control, and are you willing to take control? Because that's all being self-directed is. It's you having control over what I can't predict every outcome, but I can have control over how I can pivot, how I can adjust. And the only way I can do that is by getting educated. The only way I can do that is by understanding how this process works. Because again, my motto is, it's not that I don't like banks. It's not that I don't like life insurance companies. It's not that I don't like financial institutions. The truth is they care nothing about us.
Yeah.
Their job is to sell us products. We've been conditioned to believe they're subject matter experts. When you learn that they are not subject matter experts, they get smaller. You get larger. And you understand that, you know what? My job is to leverage them the way they are trying to leverage me. So my objective is to take action the same way they are trying to take action with me. And that's it.
Yeah, you know what I loved about you walking me through your calls with the banks is your attitude towards those phone calls is not I'm a customer, like you're not free range Karen on the phone. Like sometimes I'm like, I need to speak to a manager. You know what I mean? I can get like that. Home Depot knows. That's why he had to start calling, because I was like, where's our stuff? You know what I mean? Where is it at? And your approach to this, I think, also probably makes a big difference in how people respond to you and the opportunities that come about on the phone versus like going into a place.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people just want to assume that you can't do this kind of thing on the phone, that I want to go in and I want to talk to somebody, right? But oftentimes we get two completely different results. And sometimes I'm the one that needs to handle the thing, right? Just based off of our approach. And I think what it is like a key to this is not being tied to the outcome, like the expectation of what it is. It's understanding the route that you're going, the direction that you're going. We're going north. We have to get here, but not being so hell-bent that if a road is closed, right, you suddenly can't move forward.
Right.
Is that a good way of
No,
of saying it?
I think you're spot on. And it's
And because sometimes I go, the road is closed. Well, we need to get somebody to open this road because we got places to go. We got to use this road to get to where we're going, and they're slowing down our boat, right? It's a problem.
And I think a prime example of that is the last business line of credit that we received. I called them not expecting an outcome. I called them looking for an opportunity. And they shared with me, hey, if you want this much line of credit, we're going to have to go through this process. But if you want this much line of credit, there is no process. And I said, well, give me the one with no process. Thank you.
Yeah, we got stuff to do.
It wasn't, hey, I'm expecting this, and therefore I need to talk to someone so that I can get what no, I'm just looking for the opportunity. Why? Because I know how to leverage it. I just need for you to give me the opportunity.
Yeah.
So
Misty says it's hard not to want to get it all started at once. We are 50, not much time until retirement age. But yes, credit card debt is high interest. If we focused, we could pay it off in a year. Ah, you're so right. It's hard not to want to get it all started at once. That's that getting started syndrome, right? When I'm afraid of something, I like to I would take all the time in getting ready to make sure it was done right, all crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, like let's get ready, right? Like you're packing for a trip. You don't want to leave anything, right? So you gotta really plan it out. And I would say, well, I'm a planner. That's how I do things, right? And you would sometimes just jump into stuff, and I would be like, whoa, what are we doing? We got to talk this through. We got to plan it out. We got to get ready to get ready. Like this is a process. And you're like, okay, you go through that process and I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm like, who does that? Who does that? Because a lot of the people that I knew were planners. This is how you carefully, cautiously did things. And it was jumping in to get started. And it was almost like riding a bike. And I think the way I learned how to ride a bike, and well, I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it, this might not be a good analogy because I'm now remembering the story of you learning to ride a bike. You didn't just jump in, right?
Mm-mm.
You sure didn't. Well, I did, okay? And I taught myself, and I had a 10-speed and an 18-speed, and I thought I was so cool. And I was eager to learn how to ride that bike because that was the goal, right? I didn't plan for the bike. I didn't take my time. But the point, I think, is what is it that we want? And oftentimes we want to be comfortable. We want to be safe more than we want to be free. And oftentimes it's because we truly don't understand what freedom is or believe that that's a better benefit, and weighing the risk based on that same concept of we're worrying more about what could go wrong than focusing on how it could go right, right? So I hope that speaks to somebody today, and I hope that at minimum you can, instead of just saying, oh yeah, that's so great, Angelique, thanks for sharing that with us, like we get it, optimism and pessimism are things. It's more about just a reminder to exercise it like it's a muscle and just start disrupting those thought patterns and retraining to say what could go right. And when you start to see these results financially, when you start to see these results on a generational level, when you start to see results that nobody can take away from you, all of a sudden you're like, what else could go right? What else could go right?
But here's the thing. This comment right here, Misty, there are so many layers to this comment, because my question just from this comment is, what's the goal? Because what jumped out at me is not much time till retirement, not the credit card debt. It's the not much time to retire. So what do? What action do you take? Because let me ask, are we debt free?
No.
The objective is not to become debt free. The objective is not to pay off all the credit card debt. The goal is freedom. The goal is income. And I would think, based off your comment, the goal isn't credit card or interest. It is not much time till retirement. So it's how do we get ourselves in position so that it's an and conversation. We can address the debt while putting our cash flow in a position so that we can start taking care of some of this, hey, not much time till retirement action. Meaning, what are those supplemental things that you're doing while reducing the debt, not eliminating the debt? We want to keep it under control. Why? We need the cash flow. It's the cash flow that's going to help us get to our goal. So there's because I think this is the standard, I'll call it, response from most people. There's this conflicting, these opposing issues that we're having when no, they actually work together.
Yeah.
we need this cash flow to reduce the debt to free up the cash flow so that we can go after addressing the true goal, which is not much time to retirement.
Yeah, and this right here, it goes right along with it. If this were a recipe, these are all the ingredients right here. Like you put the onions, the garlic, and the butter together, right? That little trio, that's what these types of sayings are for being stuck in the same place. I promise you. And when you put them together and you smell it and you go, oh, something's about to go down. Like somebody's about to do something. It don't matter if you do those 3 things in a pan and you let it start getting some heat, and all of a sudden everybody's like, okay, you know what? Smelling like somebody knows what they're doing.
Holy Trinity.
Yep, the Holy Trinity. That's what these sayings are, because he says, I'm tired of owing. I really hate debt. You can't be free as long as you're indebted to something else. The person in debt is a servitude to the lender. That right there is what they want you to believe.
Right.
Because you will try your hardest to be climbing out of this space. Meanwhile, they're Elon Musk, all of these billionaires are in debt. They are not debt free, and they use debt to leverage money in a different way. And they have a different relationship with this word because they're the top 2%. There's a reason why, right? But they want you to believe this. The people who benefit from you trying to dig yourself out of this hole, or you think, well, they can't benefit if I'm not in the debt, right? Paying the interest. But the problem is, unless you have some significant inheritance, unless you have some other way of generating funds to be able, dollars to be able to leverage in different ways, you're going to be stuck right here. A lot of people think being debt-free is an amazing goal to achieve until they learn that you can be debt-free or broke at the same time. Technically, infants are debt-free and broke when they're born. Is that not true?
True story.
Yeah, it's true. There it is. and so are a lot of people, our kids, you know what I mean? As cool as it is that they don't have debt, they're debt free, but they are also broke, right? They don't have, or they have not had, some of them are starting their journey, but they have not had the ability to truly build assets until now. Their assets were what? Their PS5?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing is, because I think Missy said it well, the important piece is time. That's the part. Because magic wand, poof, Roger, let's say you're debt free tomorrow. What did you win? I get it. You no longer have to pay whatever that debt is. Like, that's awesome. So you freed up the cash flow. But honestly, what was accomplished? Yeah. Nothing. You still have to take action beyond that to actually hit your goal. Being debt free does not accomplish much other than I am no longer paying this debt. But you still have to take other action. So what is that simultaneous action you can take? Because do the math on how much time it's going to actually take for you to become debt free. What could you have done during that same period of time to put you in a position to where whether you were debt free or not, you can still accomplish your goal? So it's that time factor that is critical in this equation.
Yep. Okay, so Quia says, for the record, it's easier for Donnell to jump in head first because he completely understands the math. Plus, he is an engineer by trade. Engineers don't mind breaking and fixing things to improve.
That's how I learn. I learn by breaking things and putting them back together. Once I break them and I put it back together, I understand how it works. My superpower is hopefully sharing with you how they work once I've learned them.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose-driven piece. I do this simply to share with you what it is I have learned, what it is I have figured out. And here's the piece. I don't think I know everything. Like, I think there are a lot of pieces that I'm still missing. I think there are layers and levels to this that we haven't even come close to. And that's what excites me about it. Because what I hope is this jogs an opportunity for you to also learn. And then you peel back some layers to go, wait a minute, Donnell, but did you think about this? And let me go, no, I didn't. Tell me about it. I want to know more, you know. So I appreciate that, Sequia, but it is also around the, you know, when I do get it, I want to share it. I want to give it, because that also helps validate whether or not I was right.
Yeah, if we can duplicate the same, every time we duplicate the same results, it's just more confirmation, right? And the other part is that it's not a one size fits all. There's so many different details in people's profiles that we didn't have that experience because that wasn't a part of our equation, right? We get to learn new things like all that stuff with PNC Bank. No shade, but a little bit of shade, because that's some stuff that happens in Texas and in different states that have different rules are
Texas is weird, man.
super impactful
is
to
weird.
people who are limited to the same opportunities, right? But knowing that, you would know then, hey, I'm not going to keep beating on their door for opportunities they don't provide, right? And feel limited. Now you know I have to go about this a different way. So that's the differences. We learn in the differences too. Okay, Zaid says, when you transfer that limit to the matching CB&A lender card, did it close the Navy account, the old Navy account?
You have it's all about the strategy. So there was 10,000 on one CB&A account, and my original account I only had like a limit of like 1,000. So I moved $9,900 from Old Navy over to my other CB&A card, and I left about $100 on that Old Navy card. So there's nothing to close. I still have a credit card and it's still live and active. And if I want to go to Old Navy and use it, I just can't use more than $100. But I don't need more than $100 at Old Navy. So it's not I close the card, because that also impacts your credit as well. I'm going to keep the line of credit available. I'm just reducing the balance or reducing the limit down to a point where it becomes an inconsequential card.
Yeah, but that was a
Great
good
point.
Yeah, that was a good move. And a lot of these offers that we get, sometimes we go, why would we want that? And so I guess understanding underneath, who's underneath this card, who is this connected to, and is there some synergies in
That's it.
and who
No, that's it. It's synergies.
The fabric of these offers that I can take advantage of. So yeah, it was just a really cool thing that I thought we should talk about sometime. Like why is that a thing, and how? Okay, sorry guys, we don't have anybody helping us star the comments, so I'm trying to look. If you have a question, put it in for sure. Put a Q in front of it. That definitely helps us. Okay. I did star some here, so let me go back up here. Misty says, this is a perfect time for this topic. Our first link closed last week. And
That's
congratulations
awesome.
on that. Yeah, it's so exciting to see people just taking some of these steps, and it can feel very scary. Like, we get that part, but after we've been doing it for this long, it's non-negotiable. I would not suggest people do it any other way. Not even if it makes you feel safe, not even if it helps you sleep better at night, because once you start to see these things happen, you go, how and why was I doing it for so long any other way? You wish you could go back 10 years and have started then. Yeah. So
well, and my take on that is a little bit different, because to me, it's about cash flow, meaning just because you hear someone is using a first position home equity line of credit a certain way doesn't mean it's the right fit for you. Because so it starts with, again, from a strategy perspective, what is that cash flow? Because if you've got, I'll make up a number. Let's say you've got $100, $200 a month in cash flow. Should I get this $200,000 line of credit and expect that cash flow is going to make considerable room over time? It's not. You need a significant amount of cash flow to be able to jump into a product like this. And again, that's all in understanding the strategy. But where do you start? You start with grabbing that workbook. You start with understanding your numbers, starting with simple velocity banking. Do you understand how to get multiple uses out of the same dollar? It does not have to start with the line of credit. It can start with a credit card like it did for us. It can start with BLOC or PLOC or something like that. But it's understanding how this dollar moves and can I get multiple uses out of it? And as that cash flow starts to build, you ask the question, now what? And now it's time to transition into a vehicle that can actually allow you to, again, what's the goal? Accomplish the goal. So,
right. Somewhere in here, Sequoia was saying, like, we should do a live stream about the self-storage. A lot of the events that fly us out for him to be the key speaker. I have important jobs to do as well while we're there. But the reason why we're there is normally they're private events.
Right.
So we can't live stream the event. We can share the event if that's something that people are interested in, but we don't want to be out here like we're selling tickets to events, right? Because that's not what we're doing here. And we really try to protect our audience here with you guys from just being sold stuff all the time. So if we find it valuable, it's something that you're truly interested in, then cool. But we're not affiliates or whatever those things are. We don't do those kinds of things. Yeah. So if you're there and you happen to have gone to one of these events and this is something that you are truly interested in, like we wouldn't go and be a part of an event if we didn't feel like they were good people and that was like the place to get that information.
Right.
Like that's first and foremost. We can't live stream it, but what we can do and what we tried to do was live stream from the time that we're at the event, like after, the event's closed for the day or something, and then we stream maybe afterwards with some of the people from the event. We tried that. Here's the problem. We learned really quick. I had this amazing mobile live stream setup. Like it was all packed in, ready to go. Then we realized we cannot depend on hotel internet. That messed us up. I don't know if you guys remember our San Diego stream where we've tried so hard to go live. And it was so frustrating. We tried to go live before we went to the event, right? And it just was not working out. And then like people were doing construction outside and you could hear it. And so many things we couldn't control. And we just did not want that experience for you guys. So we thought until we can guarantee a strong connection, it's going to be quiet. Those types of things aren't going to be happening. Then we're just not going to do that. We'll just record something and then put it up as a video. So maybe that's the best thing to do. However, sharing what it is that we're doing, I think does matter. Do you know that Veronica is in Savannah? I'm so mad. We could have met at the Caddy Kitchen. We could have gone together.
Absolutely.
I am bummed about that because we have had the opportunity to meet some of y'all and that was amazing. But sometimes we're like these so
trips
late.
are very quick turnaround. It's a heavy, hot agenda. You get in, you get out, and
even though the event is like from maybe 8 to 5 or something like that, networking afterwards and the whole like other things that happen after those things, our time is just like go to bed, get up, do it again, go to bed, get up, do it again on the plane. So sometimes we have like a little 2-hour window where we get to maybe do something else, but otherwise we've been wanting to make more time. Because remember we were going to do the financial freedom tour. We were going to meet everybody. But we were struggling to find where we could make that work and then be able to promote it and, confirm the time. So I think this year, all the traveling that we've been doing is giving us an idea of different venues, different cities, different groups too, that we've been doing these events with, giving us an idea of how we can plan this for next time. So even if it's after the event is over, we all play a game. I'm ready to start my game show era and do like teaming up games in a lobby somewhere where other people could come, even if they didn't come to the event, just to participate in the game. Like I am here for that. I'm excited. I've already shopped for buttons for teams. I'm ready to do this. So if they're on board and we can integrate it somehow to make it easier on us so it's less time consuming for us and help us conserve some of that energy when we're traveling, then that would be great. You guys don't care about that. So I'll just move on here. But the point is we would have loved to have been able to meet you there.
Absolutely.
Veronica. Candy Kitchen. Could have met there. Okay, Kent says, I'm just wondering how to make my pension grow and what you guys would help us with.
I think the short answer to that is it depends. So get on the calendar and let's discuss it. We talk a lot about and assets, meaning it's this and that. It's putting your funds in a position to where they can do more working for you versus you just simply working for your money. So I think that's the opportunity. So, it's what do you currently have in place? What are your numbers? What does your current cash flow look like? And what are the opportunities available? I have a lot of people who are really focused on real estate. Real estate is, not a bad opportunity either. It's understanding that time commitment and the resources involved and the role that you have to play. Again, I won't say we. I am quite lazy. So my focus is where can we put our funds and me do as little as possible.
Yeah.
So because I'm focused on not, that mailbox money piece of things,
Yeah.
it kind of limits the box as to where we're able to put our funds. It's funny. We were on the plane and I get a text message going, "Hey, I need 70 grand for 30 days and I'm offering 9%. Here's the beauty of being self-directed. The beauty of being self-directed, again, self-directed just simply means control. So when you have control, you have that, I'll call it the ability to say no, the ability to dictate what the deal needs to look like. My response is very simple. Wow, 9%, huh?
It was no.
If you would have said something more like 18%, that would make more sense. Who's getting 18% on anything? But the cool part is, if this is something that you're wanting, you will do what's necessary to be able to accomplish your goal. So 18% is not unrealistic. It's absolutely quite realistic. And when you have control, when you have the ability to pivot and make moves that others can't, I don't have to go to a bank to ask if I'm going to make an investment of something like that. We have it. We have the ability to make that adjustment and pivot when we want. And it's about that control. So it's about becoming self-directed, understanding where your leverage is located and how you can use it. That's the goal.
And how is that not what the banks are doing?
That's it. That's all they're doing.
You want an opportunity, you might need a new car, the opportunity to get a new car and level up. You need this car, or you want to get this investment property because you know that you can just fix it up, put some paint on it, and you could make money off of this property, but you have to have borrowed funds to get it. That's what people do to the bank. We've just become our own bank.
Right.
And people know that. And so now it's just more about, well, make it make sense, make it a win-win. And part of that is also prove to us that you can be trusted, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Discernment is the word I was looking for. It allows you to have discernment and choose what opportunities you want to go after.
Yeah. Oh, she says, if you're a chocolate lover, we go to another place.
Like it.
Yeah. Okay. So Roger says, what if your retirement scenario is that you're 60 and 8 years from retirement and you only have it 401k that you started at age 57, but you will have at least 3 guaranteed streams of income at retirement?
Nothing wrong with that. So what I would hope is you've also done the math on what that looks like, meaning not just 3 guaranteed streams of income. Mathematically, what does that mean? So you're making an income today.
Oh, wait, hold on. Before you respond, part 2, what retirement vehicle would be best for that scenario? So it sounds like maybe he's wanting to make sure he has 3 guaranteed streams of income.
Okay. And again, it goes back to what's the number? Like you have to get a little bit more granular and not, I want to retire in 8 years. I want to retire in 8 years and I need this dollar amount. I make this dollar amount today. My goal in 8 years to be making the same dollar amount. Be specific. What is it? And now let's do the math on, based off the vehicle that we currently have in place, how will you, based off the vehicle that you currently have in place in 8 years, that vehicle is going to produce what? And now let's do the math on what's the deficit. Hey, based off what I will have in retirement, I'm about $30,000 short. So what that means is I need to put in place today a vehicle that's going to produce for me $30,000 in 8 years to go along with my current income. And okay, let's take inflation. It's $30,000 today. If I was to retire in 8 years, in 8 years, it may need to be 38. Then, okay, what is that vehicle that I'm putting in place to be able to produce that 38,000? And here's the thing. It's not an infinite list. It's not some list of unlimited opportunities to be able to produce this income. It's a fairly short list. And so then you have to identify where in this list of opportunities I want to put my funds. At your age, at my age, my focus is security. I need to have my money in a vehicle that it doesn't matter who gets elected in November. It doesn't matter what Elon Musk does or doesn't do. I need to put my money in a vehicle where I can sleep well at night knowing it's doing the best that it can do based off where it is and it's secure. Name the vehicles that are secure like that.
Yeah.
Name the vehicles that are not impacted by the market. Name the vehicles that you can put your money into it and it continue to grow, or at least you not lose the money that you have, regardless of what happens in this election. You know how many people I talk to that say, you know what, I'm holding my money until after the election.
Right.
If DT gets elected, then I'll go ahead and take advantage. But if he don't get elected, I'm not doing. That sounds ridiculous to me. Because to me, if we're really talking about compound interest and your money making money, time is the most important factor. So you're telling me you're going to wait on someone else to dictate whether or not you take action? It sounds to me like you might be picking the wrong vehicle.
Yeah, and focusing on the wrong source of power and influence. You are your most credible source of power and influence. Of course, you have the ability to have control and influence over what your future looks like. Nobody else does. But if you allow them to, then you'll be believing things that everything's going to go wrong. You'll be believing that it's not worth jumping into. You'll be believing that putting your all your cash flow into a powerful vehicle will not be worth it for you. And you'll be dismissing facts like math. You'll be dismissing these facts because you don't believe that math is facts. What? Where is it? That is sad, but it's very common. People do it all the time.
Again, this weekend, I had a lot of conversations around everyone's prediction around what's going to happen in the few months. And the key is be in a position to where, regardless of what happens in the few months, you can pivot. Again, where is your leverage? Understanding where your leverage is located allows you to be able to pivot. Now, I'm not saying that there can't be something that happens in the market that it won't impact how you pivot.
Sure.
The key is you have control over how you pivot. You're not, it's not based off the results, and you can only do what you're allowed to do based off who's in office or what someone is telling you can or cannot do. That's the part. It's the control part.
Yeah. He says, was it super scary when you first put all your cash flow into the HELOC? It just terrifies me to think of doing that.
So it goes back to, and we've talked about this a lot, it's the strategy part. If you think that's scary, here's how we started Velocity Banking. I started Velocity Banking with a credit card, and that credit card charged me an overdraft charge every time I overdraft my checking account. A lot of context is needed here. When we were doing Velocity Banking, how does Velocity Banking work? I put all of my income into a debt tool. I pay the bills from the debt tool, right? Well, in our case, when we started Velocity Banking, we couldn't qualify for a true debt tool like a line of credit.
Yeah, we sucked.
Credit score was like 504. Just, it wasn't happening. So in order to do Velocity Banking, I had to actually do Velocity Banking through a credit card. How? Well, what we did was I linked my credit card to my checking account. So what that means is I kept my checking account at zero, had a credit card linked to that checking account. So you want to know what's scary is I've removed all of the money from the checking account. And when I pay bills, my checking account would overdraft by the amount of the bills and then pull from that credit card. The first time I did that, because I didn't know if it was going to work or not.
Yeah.
I was just basing this off all of the research that I've done and the math that the conversations that I've had with Bank of America.
Oh, and the YouTube videos that you watch.
Absolutely.
Don't forget about those.
Me and Denzel were arm in arm, Denzel Rodriguez specifically, were arm in arm in walking through this process.
Well, before that, it was like some guy who's not even on YouTube anymore.
Right.
He was a real estate. He was in the real estate investment
Me and
community.
Zach Ullman,
Yeah.
like these are people who, like, they were my peers and my partners around understanding the strategy. And again, I stayed on the phone with Bank of America. It was, if I do this, what is going to be the impact on my checking account? Let's just say I did this tomorrow, and now let me test it. Let me overdraft by $1 or $2. What's going to happen inside of my account? So I knew that, you know what, every time my account overdrafts onto my credit card, it costs me $12 an occurrence. Mm-hmm. And so I had to be strategic. If I'm going to truly do the strategy, I couldn't afford a overdraft every few days. It was, okay, I'm going to pay bills twice a month, the 15th and the 1st, or the 1st and the 15th. And so that's when I'm going to incur whatever that overdraft is for that large dollar amount. But this is me doing the strategy. as we learn the strategy, as we start to pay off debt, creditors go, hey, you're doing great. Credit score starts to increase. Hey, let's offer you more credit. You maybe you understand what it is you're doing, or here's our way to get you into more debt. So the scary part was understanding the strategy. Once we got to the point where we have an opportunity for a home equity line of credit, it's a no-brainer. Because I fully understood the strategy. I understand how how my checking account is impacted. If linking a credit card to my checking account impacted it this way, what happens when I link my home equity line of credit that I no longer receive an overdraft charge for?
Yeah.
Like, it's even better. So it means my point is, it got better when it came to the line of credit. So that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was all of the other steps that it had taken. But that's where it's time, it's effort, it's education, it's understanding the impact to things, and it's having conversations with the subject matter experts, meaning the banks, right? On what is that impact to your account when you're doing these things.
I just had PTSD thinking about that time period. I'm going to be honest.
I was definitely alone in this process.
When you talk about the scariest thing, that's scary for you. The scariest thing for me was when you were talking about we don't have any money in the account. Like, it was a good thing. We have zero.
The checking account is zero.
There's no money in there. Quick, stop. Well, you're using the wrong card. There's no money in there. Excuse me. It's not making sense why I can't go to the grocery store with my regular card and why there's no money in there, because we need to eat. And he was like, you're not getting it. Put all the money in a different place for a different reason. And I just getting a little PTSD. I'm just going to read through it because we've already gotten through it. We're in a completely different place now. But in the beginning, I'm going to tell you, I was the Bowser, right? I was the level you had to conquer to get through to the next level. It was me.
And it was the education.
I'm the problem. It's me.
But that's the education part. It's, as we tiptoed through this, I had to bring you with me. And as you saw,
dragging me is different than bringing me.
Very true. But I'll call it, as the boxes started to become checked.
Yeah.
And they started offering us larger lines of credit, and things started to improve. And you saw the 30-point jump in the credit score and things like that.
Yeah.
Because we seriously went from about a 504 to about a 620 in 3 months?
We could not qualify for a home. We were renting at one point in time because of the crash. The 2008, lost the house, had to go to renting. So it's not like we've had this privilege and leverage that nobody else has, in conditions that somebody's probably starting from a better place than we did. How about that?
Right.
We had to do this from a place where it's not that you don't have anything to lose. You have everything to lose, especially like financial stability and like keeping the roof over your head if one of these things were to go wrong, right? We didn't have something to leverage or fall back on. There wasn't like this safety net-ish type of situation we had. It felt, that's how it felt to me. And so for me, I felt like you were willing to take risks I would never be willing to take. And I'm really glad that you did. I'm really glad that you did. And you just saw something that I did not. And instead of waiting for me to see it as like the permission to go forward together, you were like, we cannot afford the time. Right. And that is the most impactful part of this. It was the time. Leveraging the time. And can you imagine the amount of people, maybe some of them are watching right now, the amount of people who watched us go through this process, knew where we were, what our situation was at the time. We even had the kids were younger, smaller. They needed, $600 for basketball jerseys or whatever the mess they're charging these days. That's a whole nother situation. That's a apply for credit type thing. They should have that on a 0% interest. But the point is that life keeps lifing, and it's not getting any cheaper, right? Especially kids stuff. And we had all of that at the same time, and we were trying to keep our head above water with all of that. We could keep going on the things that we had in terms of obstacles to overcome, but that doesn't matter. The point was there was going to always be a reason why it wasn't a good time to start, right? I could have made a list in my planning, my notebooks on notebooks on notebooks, okay? Because I got them. Could have written down lists of pros and cons of why it's not a good time to start. When these boxes are checked, we could then start or risk something like this, in my view. I am so glad we were not dependent on my view. And if you are struggling with my same view, if that's you, if you're the me in the situation, and you're looking for how do I get past this, then maybe what you just need to do is get on the phone with Donnell. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe the first couple steps are going to feel scary. Maybe they're going to make you doubt yourself a little bit, but you have someone to help you map and recalibrate your compass so that you understand where north is. And if you are feeling like, hold on a second, is this true north? And you get on the call again and you call them up and you say, Donnell, I need to just walk everything back through with you just to make sure that I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing here, or if I'm flawed in my navigation skills, right? Okay, let's get on the call and let's walk through it. Fair?
Absolutely.
But what you can't do is stay married to that mentality, because you're losing your most valuable asset, which is time.
I think where the slideshow should have ended today was on the mathematical equation around wealth, because there is a mathematical equation. The first step in generating wealth is to pay yourself first. And we have been conditioned by those institutions that I referenced before to pay them first. We make money, goes into our checking account. We then take care of our creditors, our banks, our financial, everybody who says they deserve their payment first, and then we take care of ourselves. But the key to generating wealth is to pay yourself first. And it's not tomorrow. It's pay yourself first today.
Starting today.
Right now. And then when you do that, you have to place it somewhere secure. People miss the piece around security, because it's that secure part that says that, because I think one of the comments said it feels like jumping out of a plane, a very good plane with no parachute. That's the part. It's about it. If I was putting my money somewhere where I didn't feel secure, this is a different conversation. Right. But it's about the ability to not lose. I will take base hits all day long versus winning and losing. We will have this discussion around the vehicles that we discuss around generating wealth all day long around the risk. But no one will have that discussion around their company's 401k or IRA or 403b or TSP or government 457 plan. We give them all of the room in the world to charge us every dollar they can, not realizing they're putting it in a vehicle that is mathematically flawed.
And you don't know the cost of it.
Exactly.
Never do.
It is filled with risk. How do I know? Because anything tied to the market is about home runs and strikeouts. When you average home runs and strikeouts, what do you get? You hopefully get a straight line moving in an upward direction. But if you were able to eliminate or remove the risk, what you then create is exponential growth. So the goal should be, where can I achieve exponential growth? Where can I eliminate and or at least reduce the risk? So it starts with pay yourself first today. Put your money in somewhere secure, compound your money, and then you leverage OPM, other people's money, to exponentially grow it. That's how you generate wealth. Where in your life are the 5 variables of this equation being met? Is it your company's retirement account? Is your company's retirement account meeting all 5 of those factors? I can guarantee you it's not. So to me, the scary part is my money is sitting somewhere, or my goals and my objectives are not being hit because I haven't found the vehicle that can hit all 5 of these factors. So that should be the goal. It's identifying where can I place my security around these 5 factors.
Well, and then just assigning that this is not just something that you would be nice to have. It's something that you need. It should become a non-negotiable for every home.
It's a right.
Yeah.
It's a God-given right.
Agreed.
But the problem is we've been conditioned to accept mediocrity.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned to believe that I'm supposed to accept what Fidelity is giving me. No, you're not.
Offering.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Gracious enough.
The power. It's about being self-directed. It's control. When you learn that all they're doing is pushing products, they are not smarter than you. They're just pushing the products that they have identified as being the ones that will produce the largest amount of income for them.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna pull up Jay's comment here in just a second. But Gavo says, now that you mentioned Denzel, will you set up the goal to convert him into an IUL instead of whole life?
So we've had a lot of conversations with those who offer whole life products. And I'm talking the Christies, the Denzels, the Wealth Nations. Like, we're really good friends with all of them. I've had great conversations with all of them. What you have to remember is people are not necessarily tied to, I don't want to this come off the wrong way.
We're gonna avoid this comment.
No. People sell products. What you have to realize is no different than Fidelity. What does Fidelity offer? Does Fidelity offer everything that you can have to be able to accomplish your goal? They don't. Fidelity offers these things. So when you go to Fidelity, what do you know you're going to buy? These things, right? As it relates to whether it's a whole life or an IUL, I wish the insurance community would just come together and realize it's not about the product. It's about you. So who cares whether it's a whole life or an IUL? The question is, which one best benefits you? And now let's mathematically talk about what vehicle benefits you the most. The problem is you're dealing with people who sell products. So they are tied to the products they sell. So the reason they don't sell any other products is why. So let's stop talking about the product and let's talk about you. What best benefits you? How can this vehicle help you accomplish your goal? I am a retirement consultant. None of those people are retirement consultants. I provide products that can help you generate. My fiduciary responsibility is to make sure you are generating income. So I'm only talking about where's your leverage. Why? So that you can generate the income. In order to do that, I might have to provide a product to you that mathematically does not benefit the life insurance company the best. In order for you to be able to achieve the income you want, maybe the life insurance company I'm working with has to make less money. That is a hard pill to swallow if my job is to sell you products.
Well, and also it might mean that you might not make as much money.
I was trying not to go there, but if the life insurance company is making less money, guess what the guy selling the life insurance product is making? Less money. But what's the goal? The goal is income. What's my fiduciary responsibility? To make sure you're generating income. So if that's my fiduciary responsibility, I could give a damn about the product.
What I will say is this. There are a lot of people who belong to belief systems. And I feel like in the financial world, it's no different. There are many denominations of believers based on who taught them about whatever it is that they're into. Therefore, it becomes, this is the way, nothing's going to change. What can't be denied is that every single one of them are aware that we are in a crisis and that these tools are no longer working, that these tools aren't even serving the same people who were promoting them decades ago. And for someone to have written a book based on a strategy that was never designed for an individual user, right? Saying we can use this too, was him taking tools that were available during that time and saying, hey, can't we do something non-conventional here? Can't we apply a strategy to what's available to us in today and yield a different result? Because we have to start thinking like this. We cannot depend on somebody else deciding for us what our future will look like. That's what I feel like Nelson Nash was doing back in the 80s when he first started talking about this strategy, right? based on other people's proof that it worked, right? Proof that that there's leverage there, there's value there. The problem is, since then, how many people have successfully been able to do this, and how many people have successfully been able to do this in addition to becoming financially free, financially stable, and truly build generational wealth. Become your own bank without having to then go and repay back that instantly, so you're no longer really your own bank if you really don't have the leverage available at any time, right? And there is a math equation around that. The problem here is the dream of the opportunity. I don't think it's the same opportunity today as it was, because we have different tools available to us. We have different problems and obstacles that we need to solve. We need more money. It just comes down to it. We're not trying to achieve 1980 results with the same policy that's almost the same cost for these policies. We have to do something different. But I think it's the tried and true that have people no different than belief systems, denominations. It's what has been said and the interpretation of that. And so therefore it just becomes the word, and we cannot go off of that. It's unfortunate that someone else's belief in that, whether they have the results to prove it or not, right? The belief in it, though, is what they will share with other people. And the benefit of them sharing that belief also, I do feel like, takes a part of that. I don't want to get into the weeds here I don't think that it's valuable to say things about other people, but it's just a fact that's out there. We could wait until we had become billionaires or Grant Cardone or something to feel like we could get out here and start talking about it. But I think there are a lot of people who usually would not be on video, who had seen other people talk about things and then went, whoa, this can't be the only source that people are getting this information from. And we know that we're proof. We know that the people that we've helped is even more proof. But we also understand that there have to be different solutions out there. Not different, meaning this is a solution and this is a solution. Different in terms of learning the actual strategy without it being tied to this is the way. I don't know how else to say that outside of belief systems.
Well, Cabo, I got one for you. I'm not a fan of life insurance. To me, an IUL is quite mediocre. I can show you a whole life policy that is better than an IUL. Not a problem. That's not why I'm here. That's not what I'm Again, I go back to the mathematical equation. Pay yourself first, starting today, somewhere secure, compound your money, then use other people's money to exponentially grow it. I'm looking for vehicles that fit this structure. I create IRAs and 401ks. Most people who offer life insurance hate traditional retirement accounts. Well, if I create IRAs and 401ks, aren't those traditional retirement accounts? What you learn is it's not the product. It's not the whole life policy. It's not the IUL. It's not the IRA. It's not the 401k. It's the structure and the institution that has it. That's the problem. So guess what? If you structure an IRA properly, if you structure a 401k properly, and you get that 401k out of the market that it's in, and you allow it to invest in non-traditional investments, you can actually hit those 5 factors. You can pay yourself first in a 401k. You can do it today in a 401k. You can invest in security, in a secure product with a 401k. You can compound your money and you can exponentially grow it using leverage. You can do those things with a 401k. It just so happens you can also do it with an IUL. The question is, can you do it with a whole life policy? I can pay myself first, not a problem. I can do it today, not a problem. I can do it securely inside of a whole life policy, not a problem. I can compound my money, not a problem. Can you use other people's money inside of a whole life policy to complete the fifth variable in this equation to generate wealth? The problem is you can't. And it's not because I don't want to. It's because whole life policies were not designed to be able to allow you to add leverage in them.
But also,
So that's
we
the
have a whole life
deficiency.
policy because in the beginning, we were getting we had to
Exactly.
start somewhere.
It's not the product.
We were getting the information from the same places that we're talking about, and we were trusting that these were the people who would only share the best opportunities because they cared, because of all the things that they were saying, depending on the community, depending on the intentions, whatever it was. But then we learned other things. We read other books. We tapped into other communities. We started learning things that were behind paywalls that isn't just out here on YouTube, right? We started to learn some things and we went, well, how come? Why wouldn't you? Did you know this? Oh, yeah, we know that. We know that people do that. Well, why wouldn't you share that then with your platform? And they get to choose not to. Got to respect that. They get the choice. So that's where we kind of leave it, is that's the difference in what people desire to share and what they feel like is the right thing to share.
Many ways to 10.
Many ways to 10, yeah. What we just wanted to be the change that we wish to see in sharing stuff that we felt like should be out there, for sure. And making sure that we are not saying we're going to wait until we get these results, because time is such an important factor. We're going to say, come with us. We've already gotten to here, so we can tell you to come here, but we're going to keep going. So in the meantime, do you want to come with us? That's really what we're out here doing. So we're just going to leave it there. Jay said, we meant to get back to this. I can't find investment property HELOC. Any recommendations of any bank that's offering them?
Yeah, depends on the state that you're in. There are definitely banks out there that offer lines of credit, home equity lines of credit on rental properties. Your major banks like the Chase and the Bank of America, not so much. So you have to dig into the credit unions. There are banks out there. I think the easiest thing to do is a Google search. If you were to Google investment property, home equity lines of credit, and put in your zip code, I can guarantee that banks will pop up. It may not be the banks you were thinking of, but they absolutely do exist.
This is where we were talking about how much easier it is to give your personal guarantee and to enter in an agreement where, if this is truly an investment property rolled into an investment account associated with some sort of tax advantaged vehicle like a self-directed 401k or IRA, trying to combine these strategies, there's so much red tape, right? Then all of a sudden, if you've tuned in last week, you learn why you've invalidated your IRA as an example, right? So then you're thinking to yourself, I'm doing this HELOC strategy, and I'm going to be paying down this rental property super fast. Look at all this cash flow it's going to free up. Now I can go take the leverage from the HELOC, buy more properties. My goodness, this is going to be amazing because I'm right here with you on this. The issue is how you go about doing this matters so much, because the banks aren't going to tell you, oh, you're going to invalidate your IRA if you do that, right? The banks aren't going to tell you, oh, you just disqualified for the depreciating asset class for this year because you structured it in this way. They're not going to say those things. And so this is where I would say, if you don't have a community that you're tapping into who are using these strategies, this is where community is really valuable. And that's where that's really the value in where you go and you speak, is you're tapping into the communities and you're saying, here's this piece that we can add to your community. Now let's discuss what are the other factors around this based on this use case, right? Self-storage just being one of those, of course. Some of those people are there because they want to learn how to manage and facilitate these businesses. different types of storage. Could be RV, boat, could just be land that they're making like a ton of money on, just spaces of land, right? Could be space that with a door on it, right? So none of these things are like sexy businesses. It's not like people are really fired up about self-storage outside of like the passive income.
Right.
We're even more excited about the fact that we're self-storage owners, investors, and we've never had to tour a property. We've never had to get a phone call. We've never had to unlock a door. We've never had to call about a late payment. None of those things, because there are other people who are so passionate about these things, and all they needed was the funds to get the property. And we get to give the funds to get the property and get the money in the mail. So that's our kind of investment, right? Because we'd rather be here on YouTube getting other people up from where they are and helping them level up. We all have our role. Okay. So I think that's pretty much that's got to be it. I'm sure there's other comments and things that I missed, but I just want to say I really appreciate everybody who has. And if we missed your question, go to right here, selfdirected.info, and this is where you can also selfdirected.info grab the calendar to jump on his calendar, and then just ask any questions there. So that's a great place to do it with y'all. And Sequia, yes, she is in the boat here. We have so many people who have stepped up from our own community right here on YouTube. And now this is the Each One Teach One. Now they're out there helping to spread the same word. They've implemented these things into their own system. They've started building their own machine, and now they're going out there to help others because they realize there's many ways to 10, and it can't just be this or that. Sometimes it's this and that, most often it is, and every situation is unique and different. So it requires us to build a community and get out there and be the change we wish to see. Okay, all right. So speaking of time being our most valuable asset, the time that you spend here with us, we appreciate so much. Let's see here. Get ready. We like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources, so don't sleep on those. We're here every Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and used to be Wednesdays. We'll be adding those back soon, but for now, catch us here on Sundays. If you've missed us and you're watching the replay, we would love to hear your comments or feedback in the chat or in the comments below. And if you have any questions in the meantime, use this link here. Just jump on the calendar. Is that it? All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next Sunday.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you
Get self-directed.